Last week, after Trump insider and convicted criminal Steve Bannon demanded that Chairman Jordan do more to protect Donald Trump, and this committee answered the call. It's no accident that last week, this committee called as witness a former defense attorney for Donald Trump in the classified documents case. Rudy Giuliani's former lawyer and the attorney who has written and filed Chairman Jordan's amicus briefs to the Supreme Court to support Donald Trump's many indictments. Republicans rolled their eyes and snickered when I noted, as the ranking Democrat on the subcommittee, that the plain goal of that hearing was to influence the New York hush money trial against Donald Trump. Just so the public is clear how closely this committee is trying to link Donald J. Trump's criminal and civil matters and use this committee to act as outside defense special counsel, 2 days ago, Robert Costello, a Republican witness from last week's hearing, was called by Donald Trump as a witness for the defense in that very trial and used his same manic, rambling testimony that he gave in this subcommittee. Thankfully now, maybe the chairman and GOP members won't continue to be blasted by Fox News and other MAGA news outlets and blogs for not doing enough with the committee to support the former president. Costello got to try out his testimony. Defense counsel thought it was good enough to appear as a witness on the stand last week. I know the American people don't believe that this is an appropriate use of the $20 million allocated to this committee, holding 6 full hearings to bolster disproven lies that the government is colluding with social media companies to target conservatives, calling in an anti-Semitic, anti-vax, racist conspiracy theorist who claims a worm ate part of his brain as a witness. Others just spread the widely debunked fringe claims about the deep state or have personnel grievances from appropriate firing from their former employers that the committee offers them time to air here. This is what Republicans have made of the committee process, but I guess it goes along with their inability to effectively legislate in this Congress as well. You know, people often wonder, with my courtroom litigation background, having been a prosecuting assistant district attorney, if I enjoy these hearings. I have to tell you, every time I get a notice of a hearing for this committee, my stomach hurts, because I'm disturbed by the use of this legislative time to prop up a failed individual, one individual, a loser in elections, a disastrous dictatorial wannabe in governing, a perennially bankrupt, false revenue inflating con artist in business, and a cheater in marriage even. That's who the Republicans want us to spend our time on, supporting Donald Trump, rather than the American people. Today, we're going a step further. We are somehow having a hearing to protect the gun lobby, to prop up Donald Trump's pro-death agenda, when more than 100 Americans die of gun violence every day. We have colleagues who have lost friends, classmates, mass shooters. Some of us in this Congress see the scourge of illegal guns coming across state and city lines to ravage communities with gun violence and death of youth. But these deaths happens everywhere, haunting every corner of the American experience, and without a robust federal law enforcement and ATF and FBI, Americans will die at a faster rate. I know that the Virgin Islands, my home, our federal law enforcement play a critical role in combating the scourge of drugs and guns, trafficking. Without these agencies, or with more guns available to bad people, my region where I live and all of America will be even more dangerous. Families of gun violence victims have their lives ripped apart and turned upside down in a moment. None of that is helped or made less common occurrence when we attack and undermine the ATF and the FBI. Republicans on this committee simply, it's not a matter of caring about those mass victims. Families in Uvalde identified their children by shoes because they could not identify them by the faces that they had looked at every day. It's easy to become desensitized in politics, but if that doesn't hurt you, if you don't feel anything for that, God help us all. There have already been 27 deaths from school shootings this year alone. Almost 4,000 children and teens are shot and killed every year, 15,000 more injured. Guns are the #1 cause of death in children between the age of 1 and 18. The first cause of death, guns, not car accidents, suffocation, drowning, poisoning, cancer. #1, guns, an entirely preventable death if guns were in fact well regulated. Instead of addressing this real problem, and instead of listening to 3/4 of gun owners, 3/4 that support common sense gun safety laws, we're continuing with this. They brought us here right after Police Week in furtherance of a mission to defund and dismantle the agency trying to save our children, save Americans from gun violence. The ATF is a central agency dedicated to stopping the source of gun violence. Its agents ensure the background check laws are followed. They keep guns out of the hands of criminals. They investigate gun crimes. They prevent mass shootings, school shootings. They support local law enforcement and gun tracing and enforcement efforts. They do the vital work we so desperately need. We're going to hear today about ATF overreach, and especially about the death of Mr. Malinowski. That is a tragic loss of life. Every loss of life is tragic. Our sympathies, all of us, I believe, go out to the family. While an investigation is ongoing it's inappropriate to be drawing conclusions before the results of an investigation are released. We do know from affidavits from the court that it was alleged that Mr. Malinowski was a mass gun trafficker, and we know that some of the guns he sold were used to commit crimes. We know that ATF agents were serving a legitimate search warrant. Beyond that, we await the results of an investigation, and this committee shouldn't seek to influence that. Let's not be mistaken. Republicans are not here today because they're concerned about the tragic loss of life during a police raid. You know why I know that? Because they have not uttered a word about a Florida deputy shooting and killing Senior Airman Roger Fortsman in his apartment just a week ago. You know why I know that? Because they don't say anything. They don't say the name Breonna Taylor, who in 2020 was shot and killed in her home through an inappropriate police raid. They don't want to talk about the gun violence impacting communities or how across the country, a Black American is shot and wounded every 11 minutes. They don't want to talk about the interstate gun trafficking that's fueling violence in Illinois, where on an average someone is killed every 6 hours with a gun, and where Black individuals are 38 times more likely than white individuals to die by gun homicide, triple the national average. So while homicides dropped by 13% in Chicago last year, that doesn't mean that people aren't still dying. Those victims deserve to be more than statistics. We don't talk about that. They don't want to talk about that. They don't want to talk about other kinds of police raids. They want to talk about this police raid on Mr. Malinowski because it fits their narrative about how to dismantle the ATF. That's what this is about. Don't let them fool you. They don't care. And when they do care, it's not about every American. It's only about a specific type of American that they're concerned about those deaths. Because I don't hear those other names being called by them. Ms. Sampson, Mr. Graham, I want to thank our witnesses for being there today. Ms. Sampson, your expertise and vast experience in gun violence prevention space is truly impressive. I'm confident it will be invaluable as we examine those issues here today. Mr. Graham, I'd also like to thank you for your more than 37 years of public service at the ATF. I guess I will be enlightened as to why you've begun getting paid by the very gun lobby fighting ATF's work. I want to thank the other witnesses. I would ask all 4 of you today in your testimony answers to remember something. As we engage in this hearing, in the 3 or so hours we'll be sitting here before us, more than a dozen Americans will lose their lives to gun violence. It's a somber but necessary reminder of the gravity of what we discuss here today and what's really at stake.